I think the House will have passed the Senate bill a week from today. We'll be working next on getting those corrections passed by both the House and the Senate, and we'll have health care reform in this country.
This really may be it, folks. Come next Monday when Rick and I are sitting here, perhaps we'll have either a passed or failed actual vote to talk about.
And we'll offer that bet to you right now if you want to take it. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And it's twitter.com/The Note. Let us know what you think. Answer our question of the day. Tell us whether you think deadlines are for real.
Get our week started, sir. What's your top line?
Final press. It is for real this time. The press is on for the votes in the House of Representatives. It is all about the magic number of 216, and that's the task at hand for Nancy Pelosi and also for President Obama, who's in Ohio this afternoon, who's going to be talking again about the need for health care reform, the urgent need for health care reform. My guess is we're not going to hear much new. All it is about the counting game that's going on right now inside the Democratic caucus.
No doubt about that, though the caucus is happy to have him out there providing sort of air cover in the sense of getting on the news both locally and nationally to help the drumbeat towards this vote. He's going to Dennis Kucinich's district, a no vote on health care, who told us he's still likely to be a no vote come this vote this time around. So I don't know that he's twisting any particular arms on this trip itself. Strained relations. Yes, this battle between the United States and Israel continues to simmer. In fact, you have the ambassador from Israel to the U.S. saying it's of historic proportions, the tension in this relationship right now. You have the American Israel lobby, the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, calling on the White House to diffuse these tensions right now. This all grows out of those settlements that they announced while Vice President Biden was on the ground in Israel. And this is going to be a problem that the administration is going to need to deal with. Obviously, Israel, a very close ally, but the United States could not be clearer about how upset it is with Israel.
That's right. And the fact that the Netanyahu government says that it was caught off guard by this announcement of the new settlements, the new housing units in East Jerusalem, doesn't make it all that much better for the relationship between the two countries. The fact that Vice President Biden was there, a lot of pressure really from both sides to clarify exactly what the U.S. response is to this. No child left behind. President Obama today is unveiling his new framework for revamping the No Child Left Behind law, and it would look quite a bit different in terms of the standards, in terms of the new framework for testing and achievement. This may be one of the very few areas, if you're looking for bipartisanship to potentially break out, it might be on education reform. Just because it scrambles the politics, this education department has taken on some sacred cows inside the Democratic Party in the past. They may find some Republican allies.
And we've seen some historic precedent for education reform, No Child Left Behind, being a home for some bipartisan agreement, at least at the outset. And finally, Hunter speaks. Yes, that's right. We couldn't resist. Rielle Hunter gives her first interview to GQ. This is John Edwards' mistress, mother of his out-of-wedlock love child. And she says, she calls him Johnny in the interview, Rick. That's a sheer first of all time. And she says that they went to bed together the very first night they met, and that he said immediately that this really could, quote-unquote, F up his plans for his run for the presidency.
Well, and in terms of her plans, this is a photo spread that is worthy of any Hollywood supermodel. This is the full deal treatment she got here. The first we're really seeing her, other than the kind of clips you see occasionally. She's out there, and she says John Edwards doesn't mind her telling her side of the story. What do you think about that?
I don't know that that's entirely true, but if you haven't seen the photos, we urge you to go and check them out. We're going to begin with Karl Rove, the former Bush chief strategist. He joins us from Austin, Texas. He is the author of a new book, Courage and Consequence, My Life as a Conservative in the Fight. Karl Rove, thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate your time. Let's begin with the politics of the day, if we could, sir. I want to get your take on something in this healthcare battle that has been perplexing to me. Both sides seem totally committed that they've got the right politics here. That the Republicans, that is, after this vote, assuming it passes, believes they can go to the American people and get this fully rejected. The Democrats are in complete disagreement with that. They think they're going to get this passed, go out there and be able to sell it without the distraction of process. Which side is right, and how do you know?
Well, we won't know until it's over, but I'll make clear my prejudice on this. I think that whoever is pushing this line inside the Democrat caucus, very effectively, incidentally, is leading them to destruction. I mean, This is a bill that is disliked by 60% of the American people if you average out all these recent polls, and liked by 38%, and the intensity is all on the no side by more than 2 to 1. This is a bill that has lost support over the last year among seniors, college-educated, and independent voters. And if you had to pick 3 groups that are going to determine the outcome of the 2010 election, them's the groups. This is going to be a bad problem for them. They pass it, particularly if the Republicans, as I said in my Wall Street Journal column last week, if the Republicans stand up and say, our #1 order of business will be to repeal the bill using whatever methods and procedures they use to pass it. And if that's the case, the American people are going to deal the Democrats already behind the 8 ball for the November elections an even more telling blow.
Carl, if you had the 2 choices in front of you as a Republican, and one choice is the Democrats pass something that you can then run against, or Democrats are unable to pass it and you run against the ideas that they put forward, as in addition to the fact that they couldn't get anything done, which is preferable for the Republican Party, just on a political sense?
Yeah, look, I don't want to. Let's step back for a minute. Let's not take all of this freighted completely with politics. I'd like to see the bill defeated. But in a way, is the most dangerous thing for the Republicans, because the Democrats, if they were smart, if they were not able to get this monstrosity through, they would step back, and if President Obama were adroit, he would then come forward with a series of incremental measures, the balance of this year, like the insurance reforms, or like some of the reforms in Medicare and Medicaid, right, so that he would be able to say, look, we're trying to make progress. We didn't get the big bill, but we're still trying to do the things that you want. And it would take some of the bite out of having cast a lot of bad votes for this bill. And on the other hand, it would engender some enthusiasm on the left in his party, because they would say he may have lost on the big bill, but he's still keeping moving forward, trying to get expansion of Medicare so that more people can buy into it. Whatever it is that the Democrat on the left want, Obama can get some of that stuff in incremental bills and force Republicans to cast tough votes against things like no denial of coverage for pre-existing
right
conditions.
Carl, it seems to me that the White House has invested so much of Obama's political capital into this health care bill. Just an unbelievable amount that should it fail, it really could cripple the rest of his term in terms of getting big things done on his agenda. Can you take us inside the Bush White House, your 8 years there? Was there ever a vote that you felt so much of the president's political capital was riding on that when you guys were sitting there in the West Wing, you were just worried about the future of the Bush agenda if the vote didn't go the way you wanted?
Well, there are constantly votes like that, whether it was the tax cuts or No Child Left Behind or the authorization for the use of force resolution, or you constantly run into these things. But the Medicare prescription Part D. But there's a lesson in there. Look, it wasn't as good for Obama last year as it looked. It's not as bad for Obama today as it looks. It will not mean the end of the Obama presidency. What it will mean is a challenge to his governing style. He has outsourced, in my opinion, too much to Congress to write. He has been too aloof and disengaged from this process, and he has stuffed too much into this pipeline, if you will, that Congress manages. There's only so much volume you can put through the congressional tube. And again, we saw today, he's asked Congress to pass a monumental 3,000-page bill that is highly controversial and stuffed with all kinds of snarky and stinky provisions in it. And then today, he's also coming out with another major initiative on education reform. And at some point, members of Congress' heads explode, particularly in election years like this. So my concern would be whether or not, if he is defeated in this, is he adroit enough to sort of say, look, let's step back for a minute, re-gauge, recalibrate, figure out what went right and what went wrong. And he's got 3 big problems he's got to deal with: outsourcing, aloof and disengaged. I mean, think about it. He attacked 2 critical elements of the health care bill during the campaign, namely the idea that we were going to have Cadillac insurance plans. I'm sorry, I'm having a brief moment here. There's another
the
major
individual mandate.
Yeah,
individual mandate,
right,
exactly.
Right, right.
I mean, these are two, if you will, essential items in the House and Senate bills,
right,
and they were the major things that he campaigned against. And if he really felt strongly about them, you think early in the process he would have said, hey, this is a red line for me, but being disengaged and aloof. And then finally, the idea that he's just got so much on their plate, financial, right, second jobs bill, the financial industry regulation bill, education reform, health care bill, and look, they're trying to get reelected. And it's enough to make any freshman member's head swim.
Carl, I want to ask you about this, the controversy with Israel last week. Well, Vice President Biden, in the region, of course, a rebuke to the administration. Well, what do you make of the way that President Obama has handled this? Do you feel like the response has been appropriate?
I think this is part of a broader problem with the Obama administration, and that is there doesn't seem to be enough groundwork done before these international meetings that they don't get caught by surprises like this, which is surprising to me given the fact that Hillary Clinton is a very strong Secretary of State. But this is not the first time this happened. Remember, this really started when they went to the G8 last year, prepared to say to the G8, hey, we want you all to follow our lead and stimulate your economies in a similar fashion, and they said no. 2 days later, they went to NATO and said, we want you to send additional troops to Afghanistan. They said, forget it. You know, we saw it in the International Climate Conference. We've seen this. We saw it in their precipitous decision to withdraw the facilities from Poland and Czech for missile defense without pre-conversation with the two governments to ease the way into it. We saw it in Honduras, where rather than monitoring the situation, they let a cowboy president try and act in an extra-constitutional way to violate a fundamental principle in the Constitution, all without having done their homework in advance. And it struck me that this was another example.
Karl,
I do think Tom Friedman had it right. If they didn't like this, Biden should have left the country immediately.
Karl Rove, we know you got to get to a speech, and we wish you good luck with the book, Courage and Consequence, My Life as a Conservative in the Fight. Thank
Wonderful.
you very much.
And incidentally, I'm in Dallas. I'm in
sorry.
Dallas. I want to correct the record.
I apologize. Dallas
The people here in Dallas have got, their feelings could get hurt if ABC put me in Austin.
You're absolutely right, Karl. Thank you for that.